Hi, everybody. This is Shelley Harris, and we have several presenters for you today. This is our first time doing the RaceDay check-in certification and photo certification, so welcome. We still have some timers coming in, so I'm going to give them a moment and I'll speak a little bit slower. Let me get my screen. Great. So again, many of you have taken, the different courses with RunSignup. You've been certified in RaceJoy, in RaceDay scoring, or in RunSignup's kind of marketing and registration platform. So this is our fourth certification. And I'm going to kind of, if this is your first certification, welcome. But I'm going to give a brief overview of the program, why we do it, and so on, and then we'll launch into the training. We don't expect to take up the full 3 hours. We're actually thinking it's going to be about 90 minutes to 2 hours, so you'll get some time back today. If for some reason you're not able to watch the full presentation, you'll receive a recorded version of this after the class, and you can watch it on your own time. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the control panel, in the GoToWebinar control panel, and then we have several people available to answer your questions. Great. I will get started then. Okay, so this is our agenda. So I'm going to give an overview, and then Chris McDonald will be going through the check-in app from a participant perspective, all the back-end configuration steps and so forth, and how to get the most use out of the app. And then Kevin Lai will be providing kind of a troubleshooting overview of kind of key things that they get on the support side, things that you should be aware of. And then Matt Avery will be covering the check-in app from a volunteer staff check-in viewpoint, and then he'll dive into the photo platform and how to get use that product as well. So the RaceDay Timer Certification Program, what is this? So this program is actually a program that we designed specifically for timers at RunSignup, and our goal is to empower timers with a competitive advantage by giving them access to this advanced technology and information and product training, so that they can then bring that to the table with their races, and so that empowers them with the ability to offer different products, and also just to be more knowledgeable in certain areas. And our goal is to, in return, that timers bring those events to RunSignup for registration, because that's truly where we make the revenue required for our business to support people's salaries and so forth. So there's a lot of free technology. It is very costly to support that, but this is kind of our strategy with the timer, focusing on the timer environment, because most timers represent more than one race, or they have their own races and so forth. So we feel like it's a more of an efficient approach, and it also helps the industry. So how we do this is through the RaceDay technology that are focused on that RaceDay experience, all the things you need to do to provide a better experience on RaceDay. And that includes scoring software, participant tracking, and things like the check-in app that we'll talk about today. And with this, then you have an opportunity to maybe charge for different services that you haven't done before, or at least have a competitive advantage. So I just wanted to share a couple of things that are relevant to this session, and that, from our timer survey that we put out every year. One of the questions that we ask is, how do you make your business more competitive? And the top approaches are through relationships, services, and technology. So this just reinforces the reason why we have this program, why we have the RaceDay Technology Division with RunSignup. And timers don't just time events, and 78% of timers offer services outside of timing events. So it's important to maintain your competitiveness in your area and your region. So if you have other timers providing these other services, then it's it's a good idea to also do the same. And then when you're doing that, when you're offering these other services, then you're kind of creating this stickiness with the race so that they're less likely to move on to another timer, because it's just creates this kind of, you know, challenge that for them to also have to find someone else that does, you know, participant tracking or what have you. So the types of services, the top 10 services that timers reported this year to us is, you know, race directing, course certification and setup, item rentals, event marketing, and I'm going to skip down and just, you know, the custom website, race staff and volunteer management. That's really the kind of, you know, is in line with the check-in app. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So, and races look to the timers to be their technology experts. So they're looking to you for advice on not just on scoring the event, but what are the other things that they can embrace and include in their race to improve the overall experience for their participants. So the check-in app, what is the RaceDay check-in app? And hopefully most of you are aware of the app. It has actually become the most popular product that RunSignup has, not only for timers, but also for race directors. So the RaceDay suite of products, this is the which I alluded to earlier. These are all the products that RunSignup develops and offers to timers. And you know, this is actually very unique that RunSignup is the only registration company that has this kind of targeted approach through this type of technology. So the RaceDay check-in app is, you know, one of those products in that whole suite of products. And what it does, it expedites the check-in process for participants and volunteers. And you do this by you're checking in, you're using your volunteers to check in participants through an app, and all the changes, if they make changes that are made in the app, dynamically synchronizes with other data points. So anything in your scoring data with bibs, registration, and so forth, all the data, that's the, you know, the great thing about RunSignup, it all integrates. So you're not having to go around and make changes, manual changes, and make sure, oh, I changed the bib number, or they got changed over in a different course. I have to change it in a different data point. So you don't have to do that with the RaceDay check-in. It just streamlines that whole process. And you're making use of the volunteers to easily check people in and make, you know, kind of simple changes. It also gives insights to race organizers, and Chris will talk about that with the reporting capabilities within the tool. So in 2022, we had more than 2.6 million check-ins and across the country, which is huge. So it's all types of events throughout the United States. It is a free tool for your events for RunSignup registration customers, and it's available through Apple and Android. So the benefits for you and your events, you know, for the timers, it gives you automatic updating of data across functions, which I just mentioned. It's a seamless and it creates a seamless and increased efficiencies, and it decreases your need to manage participant data, and it helps to position you as a valuable resource for the event, because there's a whole bunch of value for the event. It's free for them. You know, obviously we'll keep saying that, but there is no charge for the app. It substantially decreases the time at packet pickup. And so we recently were at the Kiwi Marathon, our team, the RaceDay team, and we were just, you know, we like to go at races to try to see how the products are being used and to volunteer and so forth. And it was amazing how much not only the race staff, but the participants were saying, wow, that's it, I'm checked in, that's it. So it's a very quick process, and Chris will be covering that part. There's a lot of reporting tools for events to manage resources, so they can see, oh, this is the trend. At this time, we get a lot of people coming in, so I'm going to make sure we have more volunteers at that point. It streamlines the changes for them as well, and also the swag process. And it makes use of the phones that the volunteers have, or that the race staff has, versus using new equipment or bulky equipment. So they're able to actually walk around and check people in if the line is getting long. So For the participants, it reduces their, frustration with congestion. As we all know, that can get pretty frustrating for participants if it gets overly crowded. It also simplifies the process for changes, which makes them happy. Okay, so real brief on the race day photos. What are some of the benefits? It's free as well, and events can post unlimited amount of photos. So they can have the participants post photos, or they can manage it themselves and say, we're going to lock that down. We're only going to post photos, but there is no photographer required, because it's just as simple, loading in of photos like from your phone. It integrates with the results. So this is great. So they can go in and look at their results and look at their photos in one area. And then there's also quick auto tagging of bib numbers for immediate access. So the system will automatically scan through all the bib numbers that it sees and assign the person's name, and then will link to the results. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Chris to talk through the check-in app from the participant perspective.
Awesome. Give me 1 second to get my screen going. All right. Thank you, Shelley. As she mentioned, this is one of the greatest tools that RunSignup has to offer. It's free. I think most of you on here have likely used it. And if you haven't used it, you've heard me talk a lot about how awesome the check-in app is. So I'm going to be speaking specifically on participant mode. We have an image of volunteers, but we're going to be going through all other aspects on participant mode. Participant mode works with our Reg platform and allows you to see live data for the registrants of the race. It pulls in that data for people that have registered and that you've imported, allows you to mark them as checked in and see giveaway items and any other custom information that you asked or added into the system. And it live syncs. The benefit there is it allows for all athletes to have the same race check-in experience, regardless of when they actually registered. This is an image I've used over and over and over again here on the side of a volunteer checking people in during COVID. And I think that a lot of people had buy-in to the check-in app during that period of time, because we went to everything touchless and remote. And this allowed for that by a lot of the bidirectional syncing. So we weren't passing papers back and forth or scanning QR codes. So we weren't having to touch licenses or things like that. So we're going to go into the setup. So we are going to talk about the settings within RunSignup, and then setting the RaceDay check-in app, finding your race, creating and editing your presets, creating and editing configurations, checking people in, and then some other additional features, settings, and useful links. So one big take home, and I'm going to say this very, very slowly because it's probably going to show up on a quiz, for instance. And that would be, if you go into your check-in app right now and you've not done any setup on the back end of RunSignup or the check-in app, and you send in a support ticket that says, hey, how much do I have to pay for my event to be in the check-in app? Number one, the answer is it's free. And then you're going to say, well, why isn't it in there? And we're going to say, oh, well, you haven't gone in to RunSignup and actually turned on the check-in app. So every single piece of the puzzle for the check-in app is done within the app itself, except for one. And that one piece is you have to turn it on. So on the back end of RunSignup, it does not matter if you have a race director access or timer level access. You're going to go to the back end of RunSignup, you're going to click on RaceDay Tools, and you're going to click on RaceDay Check-in. And once you do that, you'll have the ability to go in and click Mobile Timing App. So once you get to Mobile Timing App, you'll see this page set up. Authentication settings, it tells you a little bit about the app. It allows you to set a password. This is a shared password. Do we want you to put in, your first 4 of your social and your mother's maiden name? No, we don't. Normally, I choose something, and I suggest to events choose something that you can say out loud to your volunteer group, because they might not be using your own devices. They might be using their own devices, and someone's going to have to type in this password. So I suggest using a password, like let's say it's the turkey trot, and maybe it's the 15th year. So maybe it's 15 turkey exclamation. Well, you might forget that because you time 50 events a year. This password hint, which is optional, we strongly advise you to use the exact password in that hint. Why? Because if you contact us for support, the first thing that we're going to ask in order to get in and look at your settings, etc., is what's your password? If your password and your password hint are the same thing, it makes it a lot easier for us to get in and help you out. And again, you're going to be sharing this password with volunteers, with staff, not with athletes, but with everyone else. So don't use your actual personal password. So the other thing you're going to do is you're going to enable check-in at and disable check-in at. Now, what I tell people is no one knows what your password is. So if, let's say you do want to work on your turkey trot today, in the last day of January, you could quite literally go into your turkey trot if registration's open, enable check-in starting today at sometime before noon Eastern, and you can disable it on race day or the day after race day. And the event, it might take 30, 60 seconds to populate within the app. I actually think it's faster than that, but you'll be able to access the app. Now, do you want to turn it off and turn it back on and turn it off and turn it back on? You do not. Once you turn it on, just leave it on. Just don't email out 500 people the password to the app. No one knows what the password is. So this allows you to get things set up well in advance, test things out, and make sure everything works the way you want it to. So again, most people aren't doing this for, say, turkey trot right now, but it's Tuesday. I would strongly advise you to be doing this today for your race on Saturday. So it's a really good idea to set this up. I usually, try to get my check-in app set up by at least Monday, Tuesday of race week, if not the week before. The same as my timing files, and for the exact same reason. So I can test things out, so I can train my timers, volunteers, or staff. So again, definitely make sure you set this up. That's how you get it to show up within the check-in app. So how do you do this? Number one, you need to download the app. So a lot of times when I tell people, hey, yeah, just go in and download RaceDay check-in, they're like, how do I spell it? You know what's easier? If you just say RunSignup. If you type in RunSignup into your iOS or Android app store, the RaceDay check-in app is usually the first thing to select. And so you click to download it. And then once you download it, you make sure that all of your information is set within RunSignup. And if that's the case, then you go search for your race name. Now, the first time you get into the app ever, it's going to ask you to set your device name or change your device name. So setting your device name will populate just like this on your home screen. I always tell people to name your device a unique identifier, as this will be how reports are generated or uniquely identified for each device. So if you didn't and you just skip that and cancel, it's going to say RaceDay check-in iOS. You can always click the gear and go in and update that. So so that way you can update it if you need to change it. But for instance, if you're going to run reports after the fact and you're like, oh, well, I only have one line, it's because you only have gone in and every single device has been named the same thing. So when you search for your race, you're going to search in that top function right there, find it, type in your password, log in. Now you do, and Matt's going to be talking a bit more about volunteer check-in, but if you click the top 3 lines right here at the top, which are usually right here in the corner, after you log in, you'll see all these different options: lock race, queued edits, or quick check-in, check-in stats, queued edits, force refresh, volunteer check-in, get support, back to race. So these features that we're going to be talking about, we're going to go through those. Lock race, and I'll show a video of this in a little bit, but locking the race, what this does is it locks the race on the device. The purpose of that is it disallows volunteers to be able to get into the configurations and presets, and limits them to only the job that they are able to do. It's a 4-digit PIN code. Again, we'll show that in a second, but it's a 4-digit code, and I usually try to keep it simple. This is not something I share out. So part of the process that I suggest to the timer, if you're allowing people to utilize their own devices, is have a check-in and check-out procedure for these volunteers. So my procedure is I set up all the settings in the check-in app, and then I push that, I sync that up to the cloud. That way, when the volunteers show up, I can get them to download it, just like we just showed. And then I get their device and I lock the race with a PIN code. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's something that I'm going to remember. And the benefit there is, again, they can't go in and do anything other than check people in, even if they exit out of the app. So quick check-in, it allows you to use the camera and scan a QR code and then check a person in immediately. So it's a very, very efficient way of getting people checked in. Check-in stats, the next thing down, shows you stats by race event on the device. So you get all participants, and then you get your 5K and your 10K. You scroll through those. Kevin's going to talk about these check-in stats in greater detail, but you only have limited check-in stats on the device. Queued edits, we're going to talk about this briefly. Queued edits are changes that have been made on the device but haven't yet synced to RunSignup. Why would you have a queued edit on your device? The reason would be something like you drop cell coverage for a moment. The beauty there is there's a red bar that goes across the top of the app and tells you you're disconnected from the internet. But at the same time, the queued edits are on the back end here in the queued edits function. I think Kevin's going to talk more about queued edits and getting those out. But just in case, because we really need to reinforce what they do with queued edits, you can force those out once you reconnect. It should happen automatically. And how do you force it? Click that force refresh. Updates your view at any time that with bulk changes have been made. So the app does bidirectionally sync with RunSignup. What that means is as someone registers in RunSignup, they will show up in the check-in app. It might take 30, 60 seconds or so, but they will show up in the check-in app. Just like when you update an event, or when you update a bib number in the app, it updates at the RunSignup level, again, 30 to 60 seconds later. So that force refresh is if you made, if you've lost connectivity and you just want to double check that everything's been pushed up, or a whole lot of changes have been done, like bulk changes have been done at RunSignup, you can force refresh just to make sure all of those have been pulled down cleanly. You're usually not having to use, I use force refresh maybe once a year or something like that. It does not happen very often. So volunteer check-in, again, Matt Avery's going to be talking about that. You can easily switch between participant mode and volunteer mode. So volunteer check-in and participant check-in. Something to remember, you know, if you're in volunteer mode, it says it at the top, just like we saw on that very first slide. Don't freak out if you accidentally are in volunteer mode and you're like, oh, these people aren't in here when you're trying to check folks in. It's because you're not in the athlete mode. So just make sure you're in the right mode. Get support. Sends in a help ticket to info@RunSignup, which is monitored 7 days a week. And then back to races, it allows you to select a different race. So if, say, you have 4 races this weekend and you're being a good, diligent timer and setting up all your settings today for this weekend's event, you can set up one event on that device. Then you can go back to races, search for the second event, set those settings up, go back to races, and then so on and so forth. So once you're in the race, your participants are going to sync. So once you get into it, again, we were just clicking this button and went through all those functions. You've set your device name. So when you land into the event, you're going to see participants start sync in automatically. And at this time, you can configure your presets and configurations. In order to do that, you're going to click on this gear icon. And yes, I need to charge my phone. I know it is charging. But the other thing to note, the first time you download and use the app, I usually suggest clicking this camera one time. It's going to ask for permission to use the camera. And I do this before athletes get there with volunteers as part of the check-in process, just to make sure that they did allow for the camera to be used with the app. After you set that up one time, it remembers it from there on out. Now, if you delete the app off of your device and re-download it, you will need to redo it, but you should only have to do it that one time. So, all right, now we're going to click on the gear icon. The gear icon in the top right lets you access your presets and configurations. Presets allow you to customize the check-in app for a specific event. Configurations are automatically assigned the preset to those events. So we're gonna talk about that in greater detail, like right now. So I put this in bold with no pictures on there because out of all the questions, I feel like this is where people get the most confused. Presets are display settings that can be changed. So display reg date or registration date, shirt size, corrals, registration question responses. So all of those are things that different settings. Maybe you want to display all people that registered in the same transaction, or you can limit things like we don't want to allow changes, or we do want to allow changes for specific things. But it's you make that preset, and it's how those things are going to be displayed, and how you can edit things within that preset. Configurations are a collection of presets. Now, for most races, it's one-to-one. You have a 5K registration and you have a 5K preset, and that's it. But this example shows you a lot of scenario, or a scenario that's also very, very common. And that is for your events that you have a 10K, a 5K, and a fun run. Even an event as simple as like a turkey trot. I just go back to turkey trots because almost all of us time a turkey trot. I apologize, I'm going to sneeze here in a second, I think. But if you have events that maybe, why would we need two presets here? You would want a timed and an untimed athlete. Now, the reason being, maybe for the timed athlete, you said that it's mandatory that in order for them to be checked in, they have a bib number assigned. And for the untimed athlete, you're giving every single one of them a bib that says fun run. So in that scenario, you want to skip the bib assignment function because you're just handing that out to everyone. So your presets, you would set up two. You would set up your timed athlete, which has all the same settings as your untimed athlete, except for bib assignment, this one's mandatory. And for this one, the untimed athlete says skipped. And then under configurations, for your 10K event, you select timed athlete. For your 5K event, you select timed athlete. For your fun run, you select the untimed athlete preset. Then you save this configuration as 2023, the most awesome turkey trot, or whatever naming scheme you want to call it. That configuration then syncs up to the cloud, and you're able to pull that down onto your volunteer devices or your other devices and lock that so they can't change what configuration mode. Now, there's other configuration scenarios, and we talk about that in greater detail at some of the other trainings that we've done. But some people will create a volunteer configuration that only allows for somebody to get checked in and a bib assigned. And then they have an administrative configuration that you, the timer, or your lead on site that really knows how to use the check-in app, they've got an admin configuration for that person that they can change the event, change the shirt, change the name, change the age, change the whatever. They can change all these things live. And again, it syncs, so there's no runner anymore to going back and forth to the timing tent. Everything is syncing up and down from the app into RunSignup, and from RunSignup into hopefully RaceDay scoring, right? And by hopefully, I mean hopefully you're using RaceDay scoring, because if you are, you're taking advantage of these syncing capabilities. We've even used, in some scenarios you're not allowed to because of HIPAA requirements, but we've even put in a custom question that says, do you have any medical conditions that can be shared with medical staff? And we've had a medical configuration that only shows the athlete name, or it shows the athlete name, the emergency contact name, contact number. And so if someone falls out on the course and a medical person comes up, they could scan their bib and get all of their information right there off of their phone. So there's a lot of different creative configuration ways to set things up. So again, types of presets. So there's a number of different things that you can do with presets. You can set the check-in steps. So you can add in people on the same transaction, same team, same corporate team. Most of the time, you're using related registrations in the same transaction because it's probably the same family. You can also require the waiver to be signed, and we'll show what that looks like. The bib number and group bib number are treated separately. Group bib numbers are used for teams or relays that have the same number. Bib numbers are for the individual. So you can require or skip, or you can leave it in the middle so that it's optional. So information changes, you can allow, or sorry, the information displays, you can change all of these display settings. There's a number more, and you can go into them individually. Most people are showing the bib number, the giveaway, and maybe custom questions. In terms of information changes, this allows you to change whatever things on the back, like within the app. So you can allow for uncheck-ins, transfers, preserve a bib on event transfer, allow for the person using this configuration or this preset to edit the bib number, edit corrals or USATs or giveaways. Now, please keep in mind, giveaway edits do not conform to your inventories. The concept of a giveaway edit means you're going to edit it, and if you have this capability, that we're assuming that you want to override the settings within your inventories. So if you're sold out of smalls and you have allow giveaway edits, and somebody clicks from a medium to a small and hit save, it's going to allow it, and within the inventories it's going to say -1. So if you allow giveaway edits, it does not follow the rules of your inventories. And then your advanced options are prevent duplicate bibs. This is pretty obvious. You don't want two bib number 1s or 2s or 3s. And validate bibs. The bib validation tool is something on the back end of RunSignup. You can set that up so the 5K bibs are like 1 to 500, and the 10K bibs are 501 to 1,000. And so it's going to follow those validation rules that you have set within RunSignup. So this is what it's going to look like once you have that event preset saved. The nice thing now is when you save a preset, when you go through and hit save, it's going to ask you if you want to create a configuration as well. When you do, it's going to create that configuration. In both scenarios, it's going to ask you if you want to do it locally, which is on your device, or sync it to the cloud, which means you can go onto another device and pull it down. In terms of configurations, this is where I normally have everything synced to the cloud, but configurations are usually what you're pulling down. You can also click select configuration on that specific device, and so you can change which configuration the device is using. You also have device settings like clear search, hide checked-in participants, and show auto camera or auto show camera on bib assignment. You can save those same things within the configurations. So once you have a preset, you see the drop downs, you can select those within the configuration and save it. So If you only have one, you can go in and save that one to all events. So this is a scenario of what it looks like for our 2022 configuration. We have timed runner and a default preset. We did not use the default preset because we didn't check people in for the virtual event. We didn't hide for this configuration. We didn't hide the virtual event. We didn't have people show up, but we could have easily clicked both of those to hide those virtual events because we did not allow people to packet their packet at the same time. Under general options, you also have the ability to hide and check in participant, auto show camera on bib assignment. Now, the purpose behind this, and a lot of folks use this, auto show camera on bib assignment is for when you have the QR code or barcode on your bib. So by saving this, as soon as you hit the check-in button, it's going to open the camera, and I have some screenshots in a second of how that kind of translates in the check-in process. Auto print after review. This is if you have a label printer, and this enable label printing button does just that. Prevent duplicate bibs across events. This is if you don't want bib number 1 in the 5K and in the 10K. So keep that in mind. You also have device settings within the configurations of the left data display, center, and right. So most people are showing bib, age, and check-in status. You can change these. The age is very helpful to have because let's say somebody named John Smith is coming to check in. You might have 3 John Smiths. So you could ask them their age and confirm now on that home screen which one they are. Now, one way to get around that completely is utilize the QR code that we'll talk about in a bit to in the email marketing or in the RunSignup email functions, the QR code replacement tag. That allows you to send out the QR code so you can scan it for super quick participant lookup. Exact match lookup fast. Some people love it, some people don't. I like it because if I start typing in, say, my name, for instance, C-R-I-S, as soon as I get to that, if there's no Christines, then it's probably just going to populate my name really quickly. I don't have to then select it. So it just speeds up that process. You can turn it off if you want to, because maybe you want things to go a little bit slower for more validation. No big deal. Look up result or tab after scan, you're going to view participant. You can also use this drop down to change that. And then quick check-in, auto confirm. This changes the timeline of how long it sits on that page. So now that you have your presets configurations, you can focus on RaceDay. In the app, you can type in the person's name or use the camera and scan. And depending on how you have the preset, you can update the registration info. There's that button. So you can update the corral here. And this person, it looks like already had their bib pre-assigned, right? So they're not checked in, but they have their bib number assigned. So keep that in mind for, say, like a triathlon. You do not, and maybe it's a pool swim triathlon that you pre-assign numbers however you assign them, alpha, or maybe it's by swim pace or something like that. That's fine. You can still see all of this information without having to go through a piece of paper to look for, oh, well, person test A has bib number 900. They're a female. This one, they didn't have a t-shirt, but test question for visibility right there. Like you can have whatever, you can have the corral as blue cap or something like that. It's a super nice way of not having to scan through, especially if it's a bigger event, like 5, 10, 50 pages of printouts. And you can update things that syncs live back to the system. So using dynamic check-in or dynamic bib assignment, if they don't have a bib assigned, you'll be prompted to assign one. So you can either scan or, and I've got some slides for scanning, but you can select their name, and from there, once you select their name, you can hit check-in, manually type in their bib number, you hit checked in, and then save and continue, and it brings you back out. You see how it went from not checked in and no bib to checked in and bib. So you do want to make sure you hit save and continue at the bottom. But that's the dynamic assignment. That is then pushed up to both RunSignup and syncs back down into RaceDay scoring. So just something to remember, that if you're not going to have internet on site, you do not need to be doing dynamic bib assignment. So as a timer, you need to think through this before you go bananas with all these features. MiFis are fairly inexpensive these days, so I think it's a great tool to have in your arsenal as a timer. But if you don't presently, keep that in mind as we're going through this training. So the QR code and barcode scanning. Cool features that we have here is you have audio and vibrational feedback. You can scan a group bib. You can scan bib or reg ID codes into the search fields, and you can use it for quick auto confirm. So there's two different ways to use the QR code. Like we just said, you can send QR code replacement tags through RunSignup emails. I think I have a slide just after this one on that. And you can use the QR code on the bib, which points to the bib number. So this is what it looks like. We're going to check in Erica Hughes, right? Erica Hughes does not have a bib, is not checked in. We go to check in. So we search for her name, however it was, or we scrolled, we clicked on her name. All right, Erica is 23. She gets a ladies large. She's not checked in. We don't need any more information. So this event chose not to use any more information on the screen. So we hit check-in. The settings for this event had auto show camera on check-in. So as soon as we hit check-in, I had to put my finger over top of it, but my finger's hiding the QR code because it happened so quickly that as soon as I move my finger, I can't take a picture of it. And as soon as it does, it beeps and vibrates and says, boom, Erica Hughes checked in, assigned bib number 2248, performance sports shirt, ladies large. So on this screen, before you hit save and continue, you get a confirmation that Erica is this bib number and what giveaway item she has. That's because people were checking in so fast, it would clear everything out. And they were like, oh no, what t-shirt size does she need? Well, it shows it to you now. So now you hit save and continue, and you see Erica Hughes is now 224823 with a check mark. Boom, Erica Hughes, Erica Hughes. Same thing with that. If you're going to use it for the QR code replacement tag in the RunSignup email platform, now this is something, if you don't have access to the email platform as just a timer, that's fine. You can coach your event through it, letting them know that this is something that's going to speed up packet pickup. And that is, if you go into the email and click on replacement tags, links, and QR codes, registration QR code, and you just drop that QR code at the top of the email, it will replace every single email that goes out to each individual person with their personal QR code that points to their registration ID. So that removes the problem of who is John Smith. You know, is it the 23-year-old? Is it the other 23-year-old? Is it the 46-year-old? That QR code only points to that specific John Smith or that specific email address. So again, is it a little bit of extra work? Sure. Does it clean things up on the back end? Yes. Does it show your event that you know what you're talking about? Absolutely. So again, another really, really helpful thing to do to get set up there. So now we're going to go into to some functions within there. We talked about queued edits. When you go into queued edits, all editable fields are displayed here. So these are all changes. Anything that's showing is a change that's been made. And I think Kevin's going to go through this a little bit in a little bit more detail in terms of exporting, etc. But usually you'll see a red bar. This one's just about to push out, but you have no internet. So you now have the ability to export this into a CSV so that you have some way of capturing somebody has a device that won't reconnect or won't push the data out. So locking the app, we talked about this. What does that look like? So we're in participant mode. This event is locked. We're going to go in. You see how it says locked? We clicked those 3 bars. We even exited out. We go back into it. Click it again. It's still locked. Oh, we put in the wrong PIN number. Well, let's put in the right PIN number. So now it's unlocked. So we're going to show that again. Again, this is a locked device, no matter what, even if they leave the check-in app, they can't get out of it they can't unlock the device unless they know that 4-digit code. How many digits? 4 digits. Don't make it super hard and make it the same for all devices. That way you don't have to be super smart. You could build it into your normal protocol that, this turkey trot is going to be, 11/24 because or 24/11 because it's on the 24th day of November. Keep something in there that makes it easy for you to remember, but keep it the same across all devices that you're locking. Requiring the waiver. Again, when you hit require waiver and you search for someone and you click check-in and they don't have the waiver signed, it's going to bring up a waiver box. They can then view the waiver. It's going to show them the waiver. They can close it and they use their finger on your device to sign the waiver and hit agree. Now, initially you might think, well, who really cares about that? Except for once you sign it and check them in, when you go to the back end of RunSignup, it now shows race waiver signed on this date at this time, and you can view the waiver and the actual signature. So again, these are super helpful things for race directors who might have had to import people from like COVID. We had a huge batch of people that got just imported into next year's event and didn't use, some sort of registration path. They just bulk imported them. Well, they need their waiver signed. So I think we all know a lot of events that have a number of, club imports or something like that. This is a great way of taking care of them, making sure that they've signed that waiver. Corral name, we talked about that as well. So why would we need to use corrals? Well, most of you guys think about it as using the corrals as like corral 1, 2, 3 for speed, but you can also do it by color, like swim cap, things like that, and show it within the check-in app. So if you put the color of the swim cap within the corral and decide to show corral, it now shows within the corral name shows in the check-in app, so your volunteer can see, oh, give them a blue swim cap. The swim cap there can be shown, and or if you're in a running event, you can show that corral as well. So this will be shared out, but there are some useful links here. We're not going to go into label printing. Label printing is something that we do provide. Most people are using a very specific Brother label printer that is like a sticker. We just want you to understand that you do have to understand how to use your phone or a mobile device and connect that to the printer that you get. If you do start using those label printers, please make sure that you test and you know how to troubleshoot the printer so that you can troubleshoot the printer, because we're not going to be able to. The printer is just like if you're on site using RaceDay scoring, we're not going to be able to troubleshoot any printer issues. We'll be able to troubleshoot your check-in issues, but printers are kind of a different animal altogether. We do have a link here also about running a successful packet pickup using the check-in app and dynamic bib assignment. And that it's got some great pointers and features on how to actually set up check-in to use this most effectively. Also, I would strongly advise you to go check out the blog post that Shelly did about the Kiowa Marathon. She did a great job showcasing how we used the check-in app there, well, all the tools, but also the check-in app. And we had so many different check-in app configurations, different lines. T-shirts were picked up in a different place than then you picked up your bib, and so there was a t-shirt configuration, and that t-shirt configuration table could scan the bib that they picked up, and automatically all it showed was John Smith, 35, gets a male large, and that's it. There's updates coming soon about releases and year-to-date status, and also some updates. So when this goes out, we will be able to push out more information about the check-in app. So do you have any questions at this point that need to get floated out about this? And I can go back to those screens, because I know we covered a lot of information. And again, these slides are going to get shared out to you. But are there any questions that we should cover right now, or any other topics?
So far, it seems like people haven't had a lot of questions, so that's good. But if anybody is confused about the presets or configurations, and now's the time to ask those questions, and Chris can kind of dive into anything that you're curious about.
Yeah, and so again, some other kind of best practices that I would say out there, especially if you're a larger organization, is well, one thing to consider is if you're going to provide devices. Again, we're thinking of you guys going as the provider of the check-in app here. If you're going to provide devices out to folks, I always suggest having N+1 that you need. And at larger events, what you can do is you can have everyone using the devices, and your volunteer lead or your check-in lead has that other device, not for scale, not so you can scale up for an additional check-in line, but so that every 30 minutes or so, that N+1 device, that additional device that isn't being used, gets handed to line 1 person, and the check-in lead takes that person's device and double checks that there's no queued edits. Okay, there's not. Cool. They trade back and take the floater device to line 2, and that's just so you make sure that you never end up with like 4,000 queued edits on one device, because that could be very problematic. And if you're just kind of monitoring that periodically as the event goes on, or as packet pickup goes on, it really limits. Just like if you're, you guys are timers, you're going to look at that backup timing. It might be a time machine, it might be a tomato reader, it might be a Summit reader, it might be somebody writing down on a piece of paper. Periodically, you're going to look at that backup data. Why? So when the person said, when the race director says, "Hey, it's time for me to print out results," you don't say, "Oh crap, I need to go through 250 backup times to make sure we didn't miss anyone." It's the exact same concept. So by doing that, kind of trading out devices, or if it's not slammed, go and check their devices right now. Like if nobody's at line 1, go check it real quick to make sure there's no queued edits. Again, it limits any like catastrophic issues, because you just don't want to have to deal with one device with 4,000 queued edits that you might have to export. I've never seen that many, but in theory, it could happen. Or that device gets taken home. Have a checkout procedure before that volunteer lead leaves, that you just double check that, sign them out or whatever of the app, and or double check that there's no queued edits within their device before they leave. So just some other, things to think about as you go out there. With that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Kevin. I didn't see any other questions come up. So I'm going to pass it off to Kevin, who is going to kind of take the next step.
Actually, I think am I doing it, or are you
next? I apologize.
I think I'm before you, Kevin, because I got a 3 on my on my slide deck. Okay, so
user error. Sorry, guys.
It's first time, no worries. So I'm going to go over RaceDay check-in, specifically about the volunteer mode. So this is a little bit confusing because when you're using the check-in app, you're talking a lot about, oh, I'm the timer and I've got these volunteers who are using the check-in app. Volunteer mode isn't like the mode that all of your volunteers use in the participant check-in. It is a completely separate system to manage your volunteers on site. So you can imagine it as being something like, let's say you have your course marshals and your water stop volunteers, and you're actually using RunSignup's volunteer platform. You can use volunteer mode in the check-in app in order to make sure that everybody is there. They've showed up to the water stop, and you can say that they've checked in or not. So again, yeah, it uses a RunSignup's volunteer platform. It's going to pull in any volunteers that have registered for the race you've imported and allow you to mark them as checked in. This can help you ensure that each task has had all of their volunteers show up. So on the right here, this is just our little test event. You've got some people, you can see the different tasks of here. The tasks are like check-in or registration or medical review. So there's similar kind of features as the participant side, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the similarities and differences, especially around limitations with volunteers. So we do have a good amount of volunteer limitations. RunSignup volunteer platform doesn't have as much on it that the participant platform does, because participants are a whole lot more popular. So there are some things that we cannot do in the app right now. So it's not possible to display things like the time slot information for a volunteer. That one is actually eventually coming soon. I know it's in code review at RunSignup. So at some point along the line, we will be able to show the time slot information for a given volunteer, but that's not today. We cannot show the volunteer category information. So if you use volunteer task categories, we don't show that. We show the tasks, just not the categories, the groupings of tasks. We do not support volunteer waiver signing, and we don't allow any kind of editing volunteer information besides just checking them in. So those are some of the known restrictions around volunteer mode for check-in. So similar to participants, we also have presets and configurations. So let's learn a little bit about what they do and how to set them up. So a little bit of review from what Chris had shown, but I think it's good to go through it again. So we're going to talk about task presets, volunteer configurations, creating presets and configurations, and switching configurations. So like participant mode, volunteer mode also has presets and configurations. They're a little bit different because task presets change what is displayed for each volunteer based on what task the volunteer you're looking for is assigned to. So this is very similar to event presets. So instead of being registered for the 5K, you're registered for medical tent, or you're registered for packet pickup. And you can customize your experience in the app based on the task that the person is assigned to. For example, you may have one task that only shows basic information for volunteers assigned to some task. In addition, you may want to create a configuration that hides, all of the email addresses for all volunteers so that users of the app cannot see that information. So you can use preset configurations either locally or synced to other devices. And if you do make them synced, they will be available to any other user who has loaded that race. So on the right, you can kind of see what it looks like if you are editing a preset in volunteer mode. You can display these different items, the name of the volunteer, their email, their assigned task, the assignment ID, and if you have any volunteer questions, those will be available to display here. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about configurations and how task presets are related to them. So the main feature of configurations that they allow you to customize the app experience by changing the preset being used for participants of each task. So on the right, I have this configuration, and I'm going to call it name and task, and I underneath that, I can see each of the tasks that are set up for my race. I have a check-in task, a registration task, and a medical review task. And I've decided that I don't want to show email address for check-in and registration, but I do want to show it for medical. So I've left medical to use the default preset, and I've changed check-in and registration to use the name and task preset, which hides email address, as I showed back here. I unchecked that email address. So this will mean that if I'm using the app and someone walks up who is volunteering for the check-in area, they will not see the email address. But if another person walked up who was registered for the medical review task, they would have their email address show. And just a note on the right, there's a little chevron on the preset row. That will bring you directly to the preset settings, so you can quickly make changes to a preset that is currently in use for the configuration that you are editing. Beneath that area, you can customize what tasks are visible by checking these boxes to hide a certain task. So you may want to say, this configuration is only medical review. All I want to see are the participants who are registered for the medical review task. If you check check-in and registration, that's going to mean you'll only see medical review people in the list when you are searching for folks. And if you happen to type in someone else's volunteer identifier or look them up and they're in the check-in, it's going to say you're looking at the you're in a configuration that is hiding this task. So this allows you to set up a configuration that is focused on one task or another very easily. Besides task presets and hidden tasks, you can further customize the app experience by using the general options settings. So this is how you can customize other things around this configuration. Clearing the search will automatically clear the search term in the lookup list after checking in a volunteer. Typically, this is disabled in case you're checking in a whole family who has the same last name, so that we retain the search when you go back to the list. So if you search for Avery, it'll filter down the list, all the Averys, and you may just want to easily go through each and check them in. This would change that experience. An exact match lookup, Chris talked about this before, basically changes the speed at which the app will automatically load a volunteer if you happen to type in an exact match on their name. You may want to disable this or slow it down if the app loads volunteers too fast for your typing. So as you're typing in, some last name and it finds a match before you're finished, it'll just automatically load it really quickly. You may want to change that depending on your preference. So after loading a race that has volunteers set up, you can use the menu and then select volunteer check-in to switch from participant mode to volunteer mode. So you'll see on the right here, the menu, you can tap volunteer mode and I'll now see volunteers instead of participants. So the first time you import a race that has volunteers, we're going to use the default preset and default configurations. So after you've switched from participant mode to volunteer mode, you can access volunteer settings page by using the gear in the top right corner of the screen. You can tap the eye icons to learn more about each of these features, task presets, race configurations, and the My Device settings. So if you're a little bit unsure about what's going on with these, you can learn a little bit more by using those throughout the app. Here you'll have access to view or edit task presets, race configurations, as well as update My Device settings. So My Device settings are basically a way for users of the app to override some parts of the configuration settings without changing those settings for other users of the same configuration. So this particular user is, let's say they are a really slow typer and they want to change the exact match lookup just for their device. They would be able to do that so that they can customize it without messing up everyone else's configurations. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about adding a new preset. So once you have volunteer settings open, You can create a new task preset by tapping Add a new preset. Here, you have to name the preset, select what data should be displayed when viewing a volunteer that is in a task that is using this preset in a configuration. So that's the only thing you can really do with volunteers is you can change what data is visible when you view a volunteer. So I'm going to say I want to hide contact info, I want to uncheck email, and I want to save. Next, you want to decide if this preset should sync to other devices or only be available on this local device. And finally, if you want to, you can create a new configuration that uses this preset for all tasks in this race. If you wanted to quickly just customize your experience for everything, that's the flow you would take. You would just say, okay, I want to make sure I'm hiding email address for everybody. You would just create a preset that unchecks email and then save it and then say, yes, I want to automatically apply this for all events in this race, and then load the key configuration. So I'm going to say sync, create configuration, and I will load it right up. So next, let's say that you did not want to create a new configuration with that preset applied to all tasks. So let's say you did not create a configuration with that preset applied to all tasks. What you'll see here on the right is that this preset has a little error on it, this little icon. So if you tap it, you can see that it says this preset is not being used by any configuration. So this is important because presets must be assigned to a task within a configuration, otherwise they aren't doing anything. So we always display this message if you create a preset and don't have it in use in any configuration. So to create a new configuration using then an existing preset, you can follow these instructions. Select Add a new configuration, name the configuration, select which preset each task should use. So over here, I'm just saying water stop, hide contact info, check-in, hide contact info, finish line, hide contact info. At course marshal, I'm going to leave the default. And you can hide any tasks that you may want to hide for this specific configuration. Customize any of the other settings as needed. Save using the icon in the top right corner. Decide if you'd want that configuration to be synced or stay local. And then decide if you'd like to load that new configuration. So that's the flow for adding a new configuration. So once you create a configuration, you can now see a button here to be able to change configurations. So as soon as your race has more than one configuration, you can just go ahead and use this button to change which one you're using. So I have default and I have hide contact info configurations available to me. So you can just quickly change them there. All right, so that's all I had for volunteer mode. If there are any questions that I need to bring up at this point, feel free to put them into the chat, and I'll take a brief minute here to answer any of them. Looks like we're all caught up on questions. Was there anything that we thought needed to be brought up to the group, or can we move on?
I think we'll spend some more time on the whole queued edits and kind of looking at different examples of queued edits. A couple ways we can do that, Kevin. You can either just hand it off to me and I can show it on the simulator, or you can cover it in your troubleshooting section. We can spend a little time just kind of talking about what that looks like and what are the different use cases for that. That was one area we could spend some more time on.
Sure. Well, unless there's anything else on the volunteer mode, I think we're ready to pass it off to Kevin anyways. So you ready to take over, Kevin?
Yep.
So Shelly wanted to take a brief 10-minute break here before we go into the troubleshooting, give everybody a chance to get something to drink or something. So I guess we'll get back here at let's say 1:20.
That sounds good.
Great.
Okay, it is 1:20. I think we can get going. Perfect. So what I'm going to talk about today is some kind of general troubleshooting kind of things that we in support see. and also wanted to go over some, again, common questions that we typically see in support. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up, and I had gone through the last probably about 50 or so issues that we've gotten related to the check-in app, which dates back to about probably with the last 4 months of data. And about 90% of those issues that have come in are related to this specific topic here with regards to a race not showing up. Oftentimes, we see a lot of people that are using the check-in app for the first time. They sort of forget sort of where everything is set up. So the most common question that we see in support with regards to check-in app is, why isn't my race showing up? So on the left-hand side in the screenshot, you see sort of what it'll look like when you search for your own race and you're not seeing it pop up. We do our best to try to give you hints into kind of where you can find the setup and on the RunSignup side and maybe see if there's an issue there. But yeah, the most common issue that we see is a race has used a check-in app the previous year, and the dates in the setup are set to the previous year. So in sort of the video montage in the middle there, you see sort of the initial date is set to a 2022 date. And so obviously when it's set to 2022, when I search for it in the app, it's not going to populate. Once you change that date to say a 2023 date, like it's going right now, on the right-hand side, you'll see when I search for the race, it'll now populate in when you search for it. Another common thing related to this that we often see is we'll have races set up their check-in app 2 or 3 months in advance, and they set the start check-in date to be maybe the first day of their packet pickup. Maybe that's a Thursday. And maybe 2 weeks before the race, they are trying to test everything out, and they again search for the race and they don't see it. Oftentimes they just have to update that enable check-in start date to be the date that they're kind of using it on. So if they're trying to use it on the 1st and they're testing it on, the 15th of the previous month, they'll just need a back date and make sure that it says, December 15th instead of January 1st. Again, this is found under RaceDay Tools, RaceDay Check-in, and then you select into the mobile app to update these enable and disable check-in dates. The next thing that is, again, a very common issue that we see is related to password. As Chris mentioned, we recommend putting in the password into the password hint. It makes our life in support a little easier, and we're able to kind of respond to you quicker instead of kind of responding and asking for the password. But also, if you happen to forget the password, the hint is right there. So the screenshot on the left just shows what an authentication error looks like within the app. And if for whatever reason the race isn't using a password hint, you'll just want to come back into the setup here and update your password and just save your settings there, and you should be able to get back and get right in. So again, these 2 questions are probably the most common that we've seen, not just within the last 4 months, but probably within the last 5 or 6 years. Every iteration of this app, the most common questions that we do see are related to not finding the race and some type of password error. So some other common questions that we've also seen kind of throughout the years are related to the stats. So on the RunSignup dashboard, if you go to RaceDay Tools, RaceDay Check-in, and then Check-in Stats, we have quite a bit of data from your stats. Within the app, if you click on the 3 horizontal lines and then select the Check-in Stats menu item, you'll be able to see, as Chris mentioned, some basic stats from your race. So the importance of stats in terms of how it can help you as timers and race directors is sort of, quite a lot there. So sort of leveraging your check-in stats, it allows you to see your percentage of no-shows per event. You can reassess and change any volunteer coverage during packet pickup. You can alter your packet pickup schedule hours based on check-in volume. And from within the app, you can get a quick glance and see sort of the current status and volume of checked-in participants. And then we also allow you to download check-in data. So if I kind of hop out of here and kind of go into a race here, under RaceDay tools, RaceDay check-in stats, you can change the event date. So for this example, we're going to look into last year's race. And it can give you quite a bit of data in terms of volumes of when the most check-ins happen. So as Chris mentioned when he first started his presentation, there's the device name. And so in the check-in app report, that device name is shown here. So that's kind of why we always recommend kind of making a device name so that it's not a generic, just like iOS or anything like that. So in this report, you can see sort of on each specific day and hours, which device, how many people they checked in between those hours. On the right-hand side, you can download your checked-in participant data. So if I download that really quickly right now, it gives you the report is quite extensive. You can hide certain columns that you don't specifically need, but we sort of give you the checked-in date, who it was checked in by, and some more, just additional information for you to kind of look into after the fact. You can also download your participants that weren't checked in. And here you can download bib assignments from check-ins. So this is really useful if for whatever reason, some of your data gets a little whacked out and a little wonky. You can pull up this report and it'll show you the registration ID and the bib number that was assigned at check-in, sorry. So maybe for whatever reason, the volunteer gave the participant the wrong bib number. Maybe it was a family of 5 and they gave, Timmy bib number 1 when Timmy was assigned bib number 2. You can come into this report, pull this report and just upload it right into your timing software and sort of override any data and sort of get the right bib number to the right registrant. So in this report down here, you can also see sort of the percentage of no-shows. So in this 8K, we had close to 92% show up that were registered. So we only had, about an 8.3% no-show rate, which is great. And then for the mile, about a 71% of the registered participants showed up and checked in. The really useful reports are sort of these checked in by time. And this goes by each day. And this report shows how many participants were checked in every 5 minutes. And this is sort of the report that I always like to look at when we kind of do the Scott Coffee packet pickup in terms of like, do we have enough volunteers when we have sort of a high volume of people ready to come and check in. So this graph is really useful. So we know, next year we know that at around 7:40, we had a total of 40 people that were checked in within this 5-minute period between 7:40 and 7:45. And so it's one of those things where, when we get together, we can say, all right, we know at around 7:30, things are going to start picking up, and between 7:40 to 8 is sort of our highest volume, and we need to be ready for that. We need to have kind of things lined up and ready to go. If that means seeing if we can find more volunteers during this time, that could be an option. If it means sort of just mentally preparing that, like, hey, we're going to have a big influx of people at 8 o'clock, so maybe let's start our packet pickup 5 minutes earlier, so we have kind of more time to give our participants to be checked in. What's great about the check-in app too is that even with this kind of volume between 7 and basically 8:30, we checked in around 257 participants between the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. And so, with the check-in app, it's really helpful to be able to check in this many people in this short amount of time. I don't think we had the line that was past 2 people deep at a given point. So we were really able to keep the line moving and kind of check people in really quickly. this shows the Kiowa Island data, and this is kind of the race that Shelley was talking about. And this is another good way to see in terms of when your volumes are the highest and when you're sort of coordinating with your volunteers and coordinating with your volunteer coordinator, you can see like, oh, between 3 and 7:38, our volume starts to increase. So let's make sure we have enough volunteers ready to go around 3 and 7 o'clock. You can also backtrack days if you have multiple days of packet pickup. And you can see, this race, this December 9th was on a Friday, and they had a couple additional days during the week that they had packet pickup. And you can see that, on the Thursday, the 8th, they still had quite a bit of volume coming in, but it seemed to have died down around 6 o'clock Thursday night. So maybe that means, reducing the packet pickup hours, or kind of you can make your schedule changes based on data that you see here. So again, the check-in stats is a really useful piece of data here that you can really use to leverage and make sure that you have enough staff at packet pickup, or you're kind of aware of what's going on throughout the day. Another thing too with the stats from the app is it sort of just gives you a quick glance of total number of participants registered and the total number of people that are checked in. When we were at Kiowa, we were kind of checking this fairly routinely. So Kiowa was a pretty large race, and at like 12 o'clock, we would just quickly check the stats really quickly and see, oh, we have 2,000 people already checked in for the entire race. We still have like 4,000 people potentially to go. So we still need to be on our toes, and we still have quite a bit of volume to go through. So it allows you allows you to kind of get a quick snapshot of what's going on and sort of prepare for potential volume of what's to come. Or if you've already checked in a good bulk of your participants, you can see like, okay, cool, we've got 90% of people checked in. I think our volume's going to die down. I think we're pretty good to go here. So again, just really good information there in terms of how you can leverage your checked-in stats to kind of better suit your volunteers and have a good packet pickup and check-in situation. Another common question that we get is, what happens, when I lose internet? I think James mentioned it, and Chris has mentioned it a bunch. We obviously have these queued edits. So anytime your volunteer's device isn't connected to the internet, if they go and make any check-ins or any changes, it'll get stored into their queued edits on their device. So as Chris kind of showed, if you click on those 3 horizontal bars and click queued edits, you'll be able to see what kind of any queued edits that are kind of stored there. From here, you can select that export queued edits, and you'll be able to get a CSV, and you'll be able to download that CSV. So kind of in the video on the right-hand side, it sort of shows what happens when I restore internet and I kind of get my internet back right here. So I'm kind of getting my internet back, and if I kind of do a quick back out and back into queued edits, you'll see that queued edit gets is taken away, because once I kind of connect back to the internet, that queued edit gets sent up to RunSignup. So it's really useful there. You can sort of see what's going on, and if for whatever reason a device just can't get onto the internet or has any connection issues, you can always download that CSV and have something on file so that you can eventually get it into your timing software so you have all the correct data. And then some other additional common questions or issues that we see. We've gotten questions from either newer timers or newer race directors about QR codes. They'll ask, generally kind of what is a QR code and how is it used within the check-in app, and how can I generate the QR code? So as Chris kind of mentioned, QR codes, there's a couple ways you can use QR codes. The QR code you can use to pull up their registration. So if a participant comes in, they're coming to check in, instead of asking for their name, you can just have a QR code. You can scan that QR code, and then it'll automatically populate and pull up that registration. Chris also mentioned that you can also attach QR codes to bibs, and then you can scan that QR code when you're assigning the bib number. So kind of with QR codes, there's basically two main functions. It's pulling up the registration and assigning a bib to a participant in the check-in app. Another question related to QR codes that we often get for newer race directors or newer timers that have never used the check-in app is, how can I generate a QR code? Oftentimes, this is related to a registration. They want to be able to have their participants show a QR code and their volunteers be able to just scan that QR code and it'll pull up their registration. Again, this prevents sort of what Chris was talking about with sort of having 3 or 4 John Smiths. It just pulls up the correct John Smith for you. So the great thing about kind of the whole ecosystem and everything is in the RunSignup confirmation email, a QR code is automatically generated for each registration. So if you registered multiple people on one transaction, you'll see a QR code for each registrant that you have on that transaction. And so the participant can pull it up on their phone, or just they can print out their confirmation code, confirmation email, and that at packet pickup, they'll be able to just show that QR code either on their phone or on paper, and then you can scan that QR code, and then it'll automatically pull up the registration. Questions that we also get are related to bid management. We've seen situations where a race has set up in the presets to have bib number optional, but obviously for certain events, you want to be able to assign a bib number. So you don't want to have someone walk away in the 5K and not get a bib because they won't be able to get an official chip time. So we've seen situations where they have the bib number optional set up for maybe a 5K and a marathon, but in reality, you really want to make those required. There are certainly situations when maybe you don't need a bib number, maybe a kid's fun run and you're not assigning bibs. But for most kind of marathons, half marathons, 5Ks, you do want to have your bib number required if they're going to be chip timed. We've also seen situations oftentimes where they're not preventing duplicate bibs, and you're not using QR codes to assign bib numbers. Some volunteers may accidentally kind of fat finger it and type in the wrong bib number and not notice that. So some things that we also like to kind of advocate is as long as you have you're not kind of using duplicate bib numbers for 5K and a 10K, is having that setting checked on. We also get a lot of questions with regards to kind of showing custom questions. I don't know why this kind of comes up, but it does comes up quite a bit. We'll have timers or races, they want to be able to show a custom question response in the check-in app. Sometimes, there are races that have a custom question, and if they answer yes to that, they might get, a specific water bottle or a specific t-shirt or a specific sock. So they just want to be able to populate that data. And so that can all be set up within the presets. You can set up information displays, and you can check on any custom question that you want to be displayed within the check-in app for your volunteers to be able to see. There's a whole nother setting that allows for you to make edits to those, which typically for most situations, custom question editing isn't necessarily necessary for most races. We also get a lot of questions in terms of how quickly will new participants appear in the app. So, this happens all the time. This happened at Kiowa. This happened at our Scott Coffee run here locally, where we have participants that come in to get checked in, but they actually never registered. And so, a good rule of thumb, always leave registrations open. This allows people like in those cases to be able to come and register and then get checked in immediately. But they might go off to the side, register on their phone really quick, and within a couple of seconds, that new registration will show up in the check-in app. So what happens typically for Scott Coffee is we'll have sort of a separate section, and we have QR codes plastered all over the check-in area that takes them to the registration page. And we tell people that haven't registered that they can just kind of open up that QR code, go to the race website, register themselves, and once they get registered, they can come back to the table and get checked in. And it all happens really quickly and really seamlessly. So new registrants will pop up in the app within a couple of seconds, really, as long as the device is connected to the internet. I also just put in this video here. We recorded this video actually last year during Scott Coffee, and we kind of mapped out some tips and tricks to kind of running an efficient packet pickup. So if you guys are new to the check-in app and have never used it, and you can kind of take a look at how to run an overall efficient packet pickup and how we used the check-in app to leverage technology to kind of make life a lot easier for packet pickup. So feel free to take a look at that video. I am very proud of that video. I was roped into hosting that video. And yeah, I think that's all I had with regards to troubleshootings. If you guys did have any questions, feel free to email us at info@RunSignup. As Chris mentioned, we're here 7 days a week. And then within the app, if you just click on those 3 horizontal lines and select the Get Support, you'll also send us an email as well. Getting support through the app is actually nice because we sort of get, we'll get a link to your race that the check, that you have opened up in the check-in app. We'll get sort of some software version numbers so that we know kind of what check-in app software that you're on. So we get a little bit of data just from kind of you guys using the Get Support within the app. So feel free to use that or just email us directly at info@runsignup.com. I think that's all I've got. Are there any questions or anything that we wanted to bring up and talk with the group?
No, thank you very much, Kevin. Again, I think there was some stuff we'll just kind of cover it in the next section. We're gonna, before we go into photos, we're gonna just do a little live kind of review of the app and kind of go over some things. And this section will hopefully have some questions that might be on your quiz. So hopefully everybody's able to pay attention. Let me get my screen going up.
As you're going, James,
Yep.
There's one thing I wanted to mention that does come up from time to time. And for those who are saying that they want to prevent duplicate bib numbers, there's always going to be a physical limitation with 2 different devices. So let's say you had 2 different devices and they're checking in people at the exact same time and they both assign the same bib number. There's going to be an issue there because you're only able to prevent duplicates with the data that you have on that device. So at the time one person is checking in bib 100, the system says there's no bib 100 assigned. It doesn't know about the device on the other line until they've actually checked it in. So there's always an actual potential for duplicates to happen if that occurs. Someone, for whatever reason, like 2 people in the same line grab the same bib number or think they're going to grab the same bib number and try to assign it. So you got to be a little bit careful with that. If people are sharing a bib stack, a stack of bibs in a single line, make sure that they have a process set forward so that no one steals the bib they're about to assign. And also just highly recommend it if you're at all able to get barcodes or QR codes printed onto your bibs so you don't have to run into the problem of people typing things in wrong.
Great, thank you, Matt. Yeah, we're going to talk about bib validation in the next section when we do a little bit of live kind of review of some things. So this is the screen that Kevin was talking about on the Get Support. It's available in 2 places. One, you can just click on the hamburger menu here and get support here. And then if you're on the main race list and even like can't even get into your event, you got your Get Support here. I'm demonstrating today the new version that's coming out later this week. We've now added text support, and so you'll able to actually just, for really short, quick questions, not something that's going to maybe be more involved, you can just send a quick text message to our text support line and get support that way also. So I wanted to back up and just kind of talk a little bit about presets versus configurations first and what a typical setup would look like. We have the Diamond Marathon coming up this weekend, and they have set up some presets and some configurations, and we have 3 examples here. And so one of the first things you really want to think about is what's the difference between a preset and a configuration? And what am I trying to do with presets versus what am I trying to do with configurations? So when you think about presets, what you're really thinking about is these kind of, and we've kind of broken it down in terms of areas. What is it that I'm trying to control in terms of the display? What is it that I'm trying to control in terms of what I can change? And what am I trying to do to control like actual flow? And so that's really what a preset's all about. and you're doing it at a event level. So for the 5K, I want it to look this way. I want them to be able to change the data this way, and I want them to be able to go through this flow. And then for the 10K, I want to do it differently versus the half marathon and the marathons. So the preset is really where you're controlling what you see, what you can change, and what you're able to actually have as steps available. And so here at the Donna event, we see we have 3 presets. We have an admin, we have a check-in, and we have a giveaway. And so what's going on here is that she knows she has stations where they're just, it's all about quick check-in, and they're not going to be able to change any data, and they're just going to be literally just coming in, checking in, maybe doing some bib assignment. And so if I were to go and look at that type of configuration, we see bib numbers required. I'm not worried about waivers and stuff because that was all handled during registration. We're not doing registration here, so this is literally people that have already been registered. They've already got their QR codes. If they don't have their QR code, they're going to be doing name lookups and so forth. We're going to really dumb down the display. We're literally just showing bid, whether or not that waiver was signed. They do have the concept of corporate teams, so they wanted the team name to show, so that the people felt like they're part of that organization that came in and we're checking in together. They want to be able to show their giveaway, their T-shirt, and then there was a couple custom questions that they wanted to show. Like, this is important because if you're a breast cancer survivor, we may want to say something different to you, or we may want to acknowledge you in a different way, and they train their volunteers to do that. So they chose a few of their custom questions to show on that quick display. As far as what you can change in a check-in mode, look and see how everything is completely turned off. She doesn't want them dealing with any kind of changes in this mode. It's literally just get them in, get them through the doors. You know, we've got 8,000 people to get through, and so that's what this preset's all about. When we look at the event options, again, we're just going to make sure that we don't have duplicate bibs in this particular event. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a new setting. This is going to be a question, is about, can we prevent bibs across the entire race being duplicated? And also, what happens with bib validation rules when you're doing event transfers? So we're going to get into the whole bib stuff in a minute, but just know that these settings exist at the preset level about whether or not duplicate bibs can be assigned within a given event. And so again, presets equal event. So if you're thinking about your organization, you're controlling what you see, what you can change, and I'm doing it at the event level. So at the configuration level, and then now let's go back to the admin and let's see how she changed things. Notice what she's doing here. She has an admin station where she just set up one tablet somewhere else, and any kind of stuff that has to be done in terms of event transfers, uncheck-ins, clearing bibs, I got a giveaway problem, you know, that's an admin, and that's a different station that she set up. She didn't want all the main stations to have to deal with all those kinds of scenarios, and actually allowed them to go and edit some of the custom questions. And then she has a giveaway station where they can actually, again, not deal with all this stuff, but at the giveaway table where they're doing the t-shirts, they're letting those volunteers change the t-shirt size and do an override on the t-shirt size, or actually they have a little bit more fancy giveaway. So that's what we're doing at a preset level. What's the configuration all about? Well, configuration is really where you're bringing it all together in terms of what are the events that I want to have available and what am I going to hide. And so what we see here, she's setting up her presets for each one of the event, but more importantly, she can control, again, let me go back to the check-in here. We can control what we're going to actually see and what's available. So a lot of the virtual stuff and the challenge and all that stuff, all that's turned off. And so what you're controlling here is not only the preset that you're going to use for each event, but what events are even available. And so you could set up that I'm only doing the 5K for the Saturday race, and then the half marathon, the marathon is for Sunday. And so I've set up my configurations ahead of time to just really focus in on only showing the data for certain events. And so that's what you're doing in the configuration level, is controlling, you know, what you can see in terms of the data. And then we have this new option here, preventing duplicate bibs across events. So that's, again, think about configuration. Configuration goes across events. So if you're looking for settings that I'm going to control for the entire race, you're going to be doing that at the configuration level. And that's where you're going to control that kind of across the race experience. So going back, and just want to kind of demonstrate, I'm going to go out of this event now and go to our test event. I'm going to talk about kind of different use cases and the queued edits and stuff. So one of the things I wanted to kind of highlight today, again, in terms of bib validation, kind of look at the rules that we have set up here. So right now I'm using this configuration, and anytime you want to kind of just see what you're using, you can just click on that and kind of see, okay, I'm using this everything configuration. Right now I have duplicate bibs across events off and so forth, but I'm using this particular preset. So if I go within that preset, we should see, yeah, turn that on. Oh, wait, I'm on the configuration. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to my preset. Sorry. So remember, presets is where we're doing everything at the event level. So it should have that turned on. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the bib validation stuff that's going on here, this particular event has bib rules that have been set up at RunSignup. And so what does that mean? Let's take a look. So we see for the 5K, valid range is 1 to 3,000. For the 10K, 1 to 1,000. Okay. So I'm going to actually do an event transfer. This was a station allowed to do an event transfer. I'm going to change this person to the 5K. Remember, they are actually already on a bib that was valid for the 10K, which is 555. But notice here, this other setting. Just want to show you this. Preserve bib on event transfer. This is a very important setting that is not on by default, but there are a lot of times when you're just dealing with event transfers, you just want to be able to just actually transfer them and keep the bib, and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm all in. I'm assigned for 555 and the 5K. You're looking here, oh, that's not even a valid number. So it's important, little test question here. Even though we have bib validation rules set up, and we're doing this, if I were to come in here and actually clear this bib, for instance, and then try to come back, and we can see the queued edits here. So we're going to actually see the bibs being cleared out. And then if I go and assign a bib, and I try to do 555, we're going to get the bib validation rules. But you will not get the bib validation rules run on top of the fact that you're doing event transfers with that setting of preserved bib across transfer. So again, a very typical scenario, you want to be able to just quickly change people from the 10K to 5K. You want them to retain their bib or not. These are settings that you really need to control at the preset level, and understand that if you leave that preserved bib setting on, when they do that event transfer, you're going to still have that old bib, and it may not validate against the validation rules. So just a little extra, kind of a more advanced test question there for you. So the last thing I wanted to kind of show again is just this whole queued edit thing and how it all works. And especially, as Kevin said, it was kind of a new area for us last year to really get into. If you take a look at this preset and just think about, again, presets are where I control what I see and what I can change. You know, a race like this, we set up every single type of custom question that RunSignup set supports. The version that's coming out this week actually has a new number type. Excuse me, it's a min date, it's a min number with a range that we now support, and that is a new thing that we've kind of put in for this next release. So we're constantly in the check-in app trying to stay up with everything that RunSignup's doing in terms of custom questions and all the different edits and validations and rules that they have. And so it's important for us to give you an app where you can actually change all the registration data right from the app if you have a use case where you need to do that. So it's a pretty powerful tool. It came out last year, but again, you know, there's a lot that, you know, can go wrong in terms of, like, you know, maybe certain validation rules and stuff are happening, because as we change all this stuff and we're doing, you know, different things that RunSignup supports, you know, there may be, you know, something that we have run into that may make it stuck. And so, like, I'm gonna go ahead and set that. And so when you come here to queued edits, and this is what I wanted to show, you can really see like all this stuff. And so if you ever get, and this is the kind of troubleshooting thing, queued edit around changing registration info, what you're going to see here is it'll try and it'll show edit attempts, and it'll show up to 4 attempts, and then it'll show it stuck, and it'll basically tell you that this particular registration ID is stuck. We weren't able to change this data. And the best thing to do is just take that number, and, you know, you can export it, come over onto the platform side and try to make the same change on the platform side using that registration ID that you have right there. And you'll probably see some other validation rule or something that's been set up by that particular race director that's really kind of mucking around with that particular request. So I would say that would be the one area of queued edits that you'd want to stay focused on. If you know you have a race where they're doing a lot of like kind of registration type info changes, and just keep an eye on those and make sure that nothing's getting stuck in there. Especially if it's a custom question that's going to drive your scoring and the things that you're doing in scoring in terms of custom questions. So I think that's the main things that I wanted to show today. Again, presets are where you control what you see and what you can change in the flow. Again, like here, I could set up, going back to the Donna event, she's going to be set up to do, she's done pre-assignment. She's not doing dynamic bib assignment, but she is doing dynamic bib assignment in the sense that for the late registration people coming in, they will. So what we have here is we have bib numbers required, and sorry, go back to the configuration. We're going to clear the search. We're going to auto show the camera on a bib assignment. So what that means is that if somebody came in and it was like the last day of registration and she didn't get those bibs preloaded, she's going to have a stack of bibs there. And because the setting's on, they're going to immediately pop up when they, look themselves up. It'll come up with, like all these people that have the already bib, but it'll automatically come up to the camera and they can scan that bib and do it, a dynamic bib assignment. So this is an example of a combination of pre-assigned, and when I handle everything up in terms of pre-assignment and then handling last minute dynamic, this would be a good example configuration for that. So I think that's all I had for that. I'm checking the questions here. I think we're good. All right, so Shelly, we're gonna go back to the agenda with Avery for photos next. Is that right?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah, take over here and show my screen. All right, so we're going to switch tracks a bit here and talk a little bit about RaceDay photos. So RaceDay photos are an interesting product because we get questions about it every once and again, people assume that it's a really difficult thing to set up, and it's really not. You just have to play around with it for a few minutes and you'll get an understanding of how powerful it is and how easy it is to configure. So let's jump in. So gonna make this pretty quick, but we're gonna learn a few different parts of the software. We're gonna learn about how to upload photos, viewing photos, editing photo albums. Specifically, this feature is really important in the photo albums area as managing bibs. There's some other things in there which we'll mention briefly. Allow participant tagging and uploads, requiring photo upload approval, adding or removing watermarks or spot race and sponsor logos. And then I'll show you what it looks like when you actually view photos in results. Since as timers, that's the main thing that we like about photos system and RunSignup is that it automatically senses bib numbers in the photos themselves and matches it up to your results automatically. So if you are on the dashboard of a race, on the left, you can scroll down, you'll see there's a photos menu tab. You can also search in the menu search above that to find photos. All you'll need to do to upload photos, all you want to do is just dump some photos onto your race really quick, and it works with the bib assignments and everything like that, is just do this one step and you'll be done. So just navigate to photos, upload photos. Next, you got to be careful, make sure that you select the correct date. You'll see it shows all of the race dates. So just make sure you pick the correct one. Then you'll be able to select either start or finish location. Now, those are our defaults that we just create for you. You can also create a new album if you wanted to create, I don't know, like a packet pickup album for just photos that happened at packet pickup. Or if you wanted to create a split point album or something like that, you could create one and name it whatever you like. So after you select the location, you can then drag and drop or browse for photos on your computer. So I've selected finish line on the right. I'm going to click to browse for my photo. I've got a group photo there. Open it and then upload. And that's all it takes. So if you upload a whole bunch at once, it may take a little while. It will show you the progress as you are uploading, how many you've gotten through. So, you know, there are some things you want to make sure that the photos are around 5 megabytes in size. You don't want to be uploading gigantic photos. It's not really necessary for most web use to have massive, massive photos. So double check the size of your photos before you upload. If you're uploading from like cell phones and things like that, the default will be totally fine. But if you're getting professional photos, you may need to downsize them or ask your photographer to downsize them before you go ahead and upload. Next, let's talk about viewing photos. So from the tail end of that last step where we uploaded, there is a button to view photos, and that would bring you right to this screen here. So you'll see in this photo that I uploaded, it automatically sensed that there were bib numbers there, and you can see in the top 1201, 1343, so on and so forth. It's captured all those bib assignments automatically. So it works just out of the box. All you need to do is just drag and drop a photo into it, and then it will automatically see all the bib numbers that are in there. And if you have results posted, it will automatically associate it with each of those individuals. So once you upload, you can go into view photos. You can manually review on the back end each and every single photo that was uploaded, and you can manually add or remove tags. So right there, I'm hovering over these little tags. I can click out of them to remove a bib tag if it's an invalid one, or you can add another bib tag. If, you know, maybe let's say that 1343 was cut off and it didn't sense that it was 1343, you could type it in at the top there manually and add a bib tag for one that was missing. Now let's talk about photo albums. So that first couple of steps there was essentially the bare minimum, all you need to do to get started with RaceDay photos. This is going to be talking a little bit more about some advanced features that you may or may not need to touch, but they're good to know about. So if you go into photos and then photo albums, you can edit each and every album you have. Now, you'll notice here, you can only see albums that currently have photos in them. I should say default photo albums that currently have photos uploaded to them. So the start and the finish, the ones that we add for you, they'll only show up in this edit area if you have photos in there. Any custom albums you've created show up automatically regardless of whether or not you got photos. But this is a good thing to understand there. So on the right, you'll see some actions. You can do a few different things there. And then on the left, you can rename the album. In the row, you'll be able to view any stats about the album. And when you select actions, most important thing, which we'll talk about in the next few slides, is this Manage Bibs area. Beyond that, you can upload a cover image, which just shows a nice little banner for your album. And then enable finish line photos. This is a very specific feature that's really only intended for advanced users. So this is for people who are working maybe with a professional photographer, or if they know what they're doing and they have a bunch of photos that are from a camera that they made sure was that the time was set correctly, it was synced to the readers. And what that will do is it will not rely on the photo bib tag assignment. It won't rely on it will, but you can also basically have it match based on the time of day of their finish. So if you know that these photos were taken at 12 p.m. and this person crossed the line at 12 p.m., it will give you a new section underneath that shows you, it's called Near You, and it will basically just show you around the time of day that you finished other people and yourself maybe. So you don't really need to do this at all if you're relying on the bib tag, the automatic tagging. So this is a really optional kind of feature if you wanted to do more with professional photos or syncing all of your cameras together. You can check us out, but it's definitely not something you need to do. And finally, delete. You can just go ahead and delete one here, album here. Okay, so like I said, the bib management is really important to learn about. This is under the photos, photo albums, actions, and bib management. So this is basically saying within this album, I'm going to manage the bib tags that have occurred automatically. So this gives you the ability to basically say, okay, I want to automatically remove any bib numbers that were detected in my photos that are not assigned in my participant database. So this is really helpful. Sometimes you have a bunch of photos that get dumped, and there's a random number that shows up in your photos frequently, like the date of the race. 2023 shows up in every single photo. So this could be a way to manage that if 2023 isn't a valid bib number in your race. Or you can remove bib numbers that are not in some provided range here. So these are some ways of cleaning up the automatic bib tagging software. So you can check these out if you're you have an issue where you've uploaded your photos and your results, and people are saying this isn't quite right. There's some inaccuracies in who is showing up. Why is this bib number showing up everywhere? Things like that. So you can check this out if you need to manage these bib tags. Bib number recovery, basically, it's associated to the last one. It allows you to undo what you did in the last step if you accidentally removed all bib tags on accident. And then below that, there's some other settings. Pick-to-go setup is really only applicable to if you're using pick-to-go software. It's not very common that people are using that. It's in a third-party photo software, so you really only need to know about that if you're using it. And then frequent bib numbers. This also helps out with determining which bib numbers you need to remove, and it allows you to do that for a single bib really easily. So what it does is it gives you a list of the most frequently occurring bib numbers in your photos. And the reason why this is helpful is because a lot of times every single photo has the year of the race in it, for instance. So 2023 shows up 3,000 times. It's not really bib 2023, it's just the year of the race. So you can say, I want to remove 2023 from being tagged in all of these 3,000 photos or whatever. And it would show up there at the top saying 3,000 photos have bib number 2023 in it. So that's a good thing that you can do. I've also seen this used for things like street signs. Route 66, you're doing a marathon at, let's say, at 66 is going to show up in every single photo if they are right on the road. So this is something to think about, not only for photos, but going forward, if you're doing a race and like a big half marathon or something with a few thousand people in it, you may want to skip over the year of the race. Maybe keep that for yourself. Don't assign it out to a participant because it can cause issues if you're using photos down the line. Additional settings, there are some other things that you can check out under photo setup. The name is a little bit misleading. You don't need to do photo setup in order to actually enable photos. It's more like a settings area that you can control. You can further customize the photo experience by going into this photo setup area. From here, you can change the access, who's able to see photos, whether you want them private or public. You can adjust the search capability. This allows you to do things like, instead of typing in bib 18, you could type in Matt Avery, and it will know that Matt Avery is bib 18 and show you all of the photos for Matt Avery. You can change the sort of photos within albums. You can allow participant uploads or tagging, which I'll talk about in a minute. Require approval for uploads, which I'll also talk about, and applying a watermark. So those last three are ones that I'm going to dive into a little bit further in depth. So allow participant tagging and uploads. These settings allow participants and spectators to upload participant uploads album that is automatically created for you when you enable this feature. And I'll show it actually later on how it works and what it looks like. But basically the concept is that you want to allow people, like, let's say Matt Avery, I did a 5K and I got my results notification and I clicked the link in it and it brought me to my results page where it shows my time. and it happened to show a photo, let's say, that a professional photographer captured. But I also wanted to upload a selfie that I had, so I can upload my own photo right on my personal results page to be able to add that to an album called Participant Uploads, and it will be associated with my result record. So it's a really cool feature. There are some things you can be a little concerning opening up posting of photos to the public, and this is why we have the next feature. This is actually showing. Oh yeah, sorry, public tagging. I missed that part. So the public tagging is a feature that allows participants and spectators to add bib tags to photos that may have not been auto tagged correctly. So this is basically like on the back end, you can come in and you can say, okay, this photo was missing a bib number, so I typed it in manually. This setting allows you to say, I want the public to be able to do this as well. So users or spectators can go in and look at a photo and say, hey, this photo is missing a bib assignment. They can type it in manually. So you may or may not want to do that, totally up to you, but it's available to you here. And basically that's kind of putting that responsibility or the opportunity to do it into the hands of participants. So here, this is a photo that didn't have a bib number in view. So you could come in and say, I know that was bib 111 because I was bib 111, let's say. So you could just go ahead and add a bib number to a photo that doesn't have an auto tag on it. And this is on the front end. This is not in the back end, remember. So requiring approval. This is, I think, probably a good idea if you are allowing participants to upload photos. What it will do is it'll make it so that photos uploaded by participants will not be shown to the public until you or some other person on the back end who has access approve them in the dashboard. This adds a layer of security if you're concerned about people uploading irrelevant or inappropriate photos to your race. And just a note, RunSignup does detect and automatically prevent inappropriate content using a third-party service. We use Google Vision, I think, and basically we, in the bottom right here, we have a few different conditions that we pull from image data. It gets like sent to a service and it tells us it's very unlikely that this avocado toast is a spoof. It's unlikely that it's medical. It's very unlikely that it's adult content, and it's very unlikely that it's violent content. So basically, if someone decides to upload a photo that looks like any of these conditions, we will prevent it automatically, and they'll get an error. They'll say, you're trying to upload inappropriate content or something like that. So you don't need to be too worried about people uploading inappropriate content, but people could just upload irrelevant stuff, photos of themselves, doing whatever. So just be careful with the uploads, public uploads, I guess. And finally, in this setup area, there's the watermark settings. Watermarks allow you to automatically add a race logo or a sponsor logo to all photos for your race. So these are the abilities you have. You can select either the race logo in the lower right, the lower left, or a sponsor logo. So I have sponsors set up on this race, and I've got some logos here for those that will show in all of my photos. So down at the bottom there, I'll see I got my little sponsor logo. So once photos have been uploaded and bib numbers tagged, any results will automatically be associated with photos that have the same bib number tagged to them. So in the results here, you can see a gallery in each individual result view that has all photos that have the same bib number. So I've got results for these 5 people, and if you clicked into any of them, you would see that they all have that same photo associated with them because they are tagged in the photo. So, and you'll see on the right here, next to the name Jocelyn Ba on the right, there is a way right there to upload photos, because in this case, I did enable that setting. So they could upload their own images if they'd like to on the right there. And that would just walk them through the same process that you kind of see in the back end when you are uploading photos. You can drag and drop photos, or you can browse for them and select them that way. So that's basically what it looks like from the front end. Results are automatically associated, and you can go ahead and see all the photos for you really easily. And again, that's just that's it. There are some things, like I said, that we went through today that are there are more features that you can add to photos, but the basics are really straightforward. If all you want to do is upload some photos and have us automatically detect bib numbers in them, go to photos, go to upload photos, select finish line, drag and drop all the photos there, and you're done. So that's the basics. But if you do want to play around some more, know about those other features because they are pretty interesting and you can do some pretty cool stuff with them. That's all I had for photos. So let's see if there's any questions that needed to be brought up.
So just going back to that last point, you could just have all the photos tied to a location like finish, and we could do the bib tagging, but the whole automatic tie into a result, that's just an option, but you could just have it all just in a finish location, right?
Yeah, so the bib tagging happens automatically for all locations. So all you need to do is just put the photos into the locations. On the back end, it will process through the photos and will detect bib numbers. And then as soon as results show up for those bib numbers, they will be associated with the photos.
And if they don't want to upload results at all, it's still just going to be tied to the location.
Yeah, and they can create a new location if they don't want it to be tied to like they want it to just be like a general photos album. They could do that as well.
Yeah, there was a question from one of the people about, are the results required or not?
So what you may be thinking of, Eric, is Eric's asking this question. If you are doing the enable finish line, where you are saying that you are gonna also have you're gonna pull the time data from the photos, and you want it to show you any photos that were near your other photos, then you would need results prior to uploading. Or prior to enabling that feature. So that's that one feature that I was talking about that isn't really necessary unless you're like using professional photography gear and you're syncing all of your camera times to your reader times and you want to try and make sure they're all in alignment. So not in general, no, but in that one case, you do need to have a result set enabled before you enable that feature, which, typically you'll already have results, but yeah. All right. I think we got everything else.
Great. Good.
So,
thank you, Matt.
Pass it back to you.
Great. Okay. Can you make me presenter? Oh, let me see. I can click on me to make myself presenter there. Okay, thanks. Great, so we're going to finish up today. We went over a little bit more than we expected, but this, again, was our first time doing this, so bear with us. Thanks for your patience. So I just have some final things to share with you, and that is, I like to share each time we close each of these sessions with the resources that are available to you. So there's a bunch of help for you. So if you have any questions regarding this, you saw there was links provided. Kevin went through a lot of different things that are available to you, and so did Chris and so forth. But there's ongoing training, there's recorded webinars, support personnel. So if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out in various ways. So one of them is, if you have questions about tools, is clicking on the help button, but also typing in, if you're looking for a certain feature, typing in your race dashboard on the upper left corner of your screen. A lot of people aren't aware of that. You can actually type in a word and then it'll pop up on your dashboard. So if you're looking for a certain feature, that's a great help. There's also our support contacts. This is, good to remember that RunSignup support is info@runsignup.com. You can also reach out to your RunSignup account manager during, normal business hours. Just know that your account managers, they typically work like a 9-to-5 kind of work day during the week. And then for RaceDay scoring, for those that are using RaceDay scoring, you have different ways that you can reach out to us, RaceDay@runsignup.com. And then you also have a phone number if you have like a tricky situation that you need to really talk to someone. And we always like to share that you can schedule one-on-one training with CRISP. And this is the link. This will be sent out in the post-certification email as well. And then there's, as I mentioned, there's training with the recorded webinars. You can look on that on our YouTube channel to look at any webinars that are related to the check-in app or photos. We have actually quite a bit of them. And then the different newsletters available to you will also tell you about different product advancements that are coming out in both the check-in app and photos, so look for that. And I just want to make sure that if you're signed up for the timer newsletter. So we send these out once a month, and we'll cover anything that's happened in the last month, any product news, any training, and then it will also cover anything that's coming up in the next month. We're actually about to send out the one today for this month. And it actually will have this recorded session in that newsletter. So if you're not getting this, let us know. But if you are, make sure to check that out because it is kind of distills down everything that's happened and what will be happening specifically for timers. And I wanted to mention the roadshow if you're not aware of it. RunSignup is hosting a roadshow in lieu of just one location with the symposium that we've done in the past. So this is to help reach a broader audience and get to people that maybe aren't able to travel or it's just cost prohibitive or time prohibitive. And I wanted to do a special shout out for the Atlanta location. So if you're in that area, if you're able to join us on February 20th, James Harris and myself will be hosting that along with Brian Jenkins. So that is, we hope to bring the largest audience to that and break all records. So definitely join us if you're able to. So it's in the late afternoon that we'll be doing that. So what are the next steps? Well, we're going to send you a quiz. It's going to be easy. Don't worry about it. Just if you could complete the quiz by February 7th, then we'll review all their answers and we'll send you an email confirming your certification along with your badge, links to supportive tools and things like that. And then just make sure that you have your timer account on RunSignup is up to date. So the reason why I share this is because we're actually going to be doing a lot with our new website to promote a timer search for race directors. So we really want to promote that there's this availability of timers and also their certification status. So make sure that your account is up to date, and it would be great if you have a company logo to add that, so it just adds a little bit of branding for yourself, and then your certification status will be adjusted once you get receive certification. Oh, actually, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And also, if you complete any of the courses that we've done this month, you will receive this new Yeti tumbler. So make sure when you do the quiz that you provide the correct address, because that's the address that we will use to send you your Yeti mug. And then finally, we have recorded sessions from this month. So we did our virtual timer tour with the 4 different courses now. We have the RunSignup certification, RaceDay certification, and then we have 2 that go under the RaceDay certification. One is RaceDay scoring, and now this course that we covered today on the check-in app and the photo platform. So if you haven't completed the other courses, you can do the recorded session on your own, and then you'll just take the quizzes and so forth, and then we'll process your certification. So with that, that's all I had. Are there any final questions? I think pretty much has been covered, so it doesn't look like. But if you have any final questions, feel free to type them in, and we can get to them. Thank you, Duncan. So we appreciate your time. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate that you chose to spend that with us. And we're hoping that you found this to be very valuable and that you can then take this knowledge to your events. So thank you very much, everybody. And if anyone else wants to say thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, that's like no contest, man. Anyway, thank you all for watching that video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and all. That way you'll be alerted when we post new content. And if you want to help us out, please click that thumbs up button, and we'll see you in the next one.